Okay. Well, welcome everyone to 3 ways to save 2 hours per day. Thank you so much for taking the time to either join us live or watch the replay. I know that we're all super busy, and so I wanted to do this mini workshop just to give you a really potent short and sweet, easy to grasp and implement ideas on, practical strategies to focus your time and certainly maximize the results that you're getting. So we wanted to make this in a digestible, easy format for everybody to take this next, 25 minutes or so, and then grab some practical things that you can implement and go ahead and roll out and implement in your day to day. So, just to share a little bit more about myself, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Melissa Swink, and I'm the founder and CEO of Melissa Swink & Co., where I have a team of virtual assistants who provide administrative and marketing services for small businesses and nonprofits. So, just to share a little bit about me and my background, my corporate background is in operations and logistics, and I left that role in March of 2012 because ultimately I was ready to just do something else. I was fortunate enough to survive a lot of layoffs in, 2008 and the housing crash and recession that followed. And so during that time, I was very fortunate to retain employment, but I ultimately found myself in a role that just wasn't a good fit for me. So I decided that I needed to make a change. And after I left that role, I started doing some process improvement consulting in my area and got to work with business owners very directly during that time and realized that many of them knew what they wanted to be doing or certainly what they should be doing, but there just weren't enough hours in the day to do all of these things. And also, they didn't necessarily have the expertise or the skill set required in order to do them. And to top it all off, they couldn't necessarily justify hiring a traditional part-time, full-time employee to do it for them. And so during that time that I was working with business owners and uncovering these challenges, I was introduced to the concept of a virtual assistant, which where I lived 12 years ago, nobody knew what that was. And I certainly meet people every day who are not familiar with what a virtual assistant is. And I'm always happy to, share that information with them and let them know, like, hey, this is a best kept secret for a lot of businesses. But as soon as I was introduced to that concept, I knew right away that it was the solution to these challenges. And so I started my virtual assistant business is in fall of 2012. And during that time, I basically worked on my own primarily for about the first 6 years. And I worked very closely with my clients, loved working with them directly in their businesses. And the problem is that I was really hesitant to bring in a team or to hire or get other people involved. I thought I wanted a small, manageable business. But as it turns out, that small, manageable business really started to manage me. And during that time, those first couple of years, my daughter was born. And so, for the first time in my life, my time was no longer completely my own. And so I got to that point where I was at capacity, couldn't take on any more clients or projects, and there was nobody there to back me up if and when I wanted to take a vacation or needed to take time off. So I got over that DIY mentality and started building a team. And fast forward to today, we're a team of about 20, including myself. And we are so blessed to have so many talented people on our team and working with so many wonderful clients who are actively growing their businesses and love what they do. And it's just been a blast. So I am very grateful for all of the things that have come from building the business. And I have been in the trenches. I have been the one doing all the things in my business, from serving clients to growing it to managing it behind the scenes and to where we are today. And I share that because I have gone through many of these steps that I'm going to share with you today personally. And this is something that's always evolving. I'm always walking through these steps and revisiting some of these things. So, just to share a little bit about me personally before we dive into the meat of our topic today, I live in Green Bay, Wisconsin with my daughter and our 2 cats. I enjoy cooking. I recently am on a kick where I'm trying a new recipe every week. So that's been kind of exciting. I feel like we get stuck in a rut And so it's nice to try some new recipes and change things up a little bit. I also like reading. I am an avid reader. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I read physical books for just entertainment and pleasure at the end of the day. And I'm part of a book club, which I really, really love. I'm certainly interested in health and wellness. And recently, my daughter and I started volunteering for a local animal rescue organization where we adopted each of our cats from. So that's a little bit about me. But for today, before we dive into our topic, 3 ways to save 2 hours per day, I am just curious, and feel free to either enter this in the chat or, shout it out, take yourself off mute, or just ponder it if you're watching the replay. How would you spend 2 extra hours per day? And the answer to this question could be personal. Maybe you have always wanted to, take a dance class, and for whatever reason, when you were a kid, you weren't able to do that, or maybe you really enjoyed it as a kid, and that's something that you want to enjoy and pursue in your adult life. Maybe it's making room for that, or maybe there is a course or maybe a group program that you're looking to launch, and it's been on your plate for a long time. It's been on your list, but you just have not had the hours in the day. Okay, awesome. Either outside with my family or having more time for connection meetings. Yes, absolutely. I love meeting new people and certainly fostering relationships with people that I've already met. And those are always such great, wonderful conversations. Awesome. Awesome. Okay, moving on here. Here's what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to talk about the number one fastest way to get anything done. We're going to talk about the magic wand that will make manual work disappear. And then we're also going to share a little bit more about 10 common to-dos that can be reassigned to someone else. I always like examples, like tell me all the things. What are you outsourcing? What are you delegating? Like what else can I take off of my plate? So if you're joining us live or watching the replay, feel free to grab a notebook and a pen and jot down some ahas as we talk here, and share a little bit more. Certainly any action steps that come to mind. Of course, unless of course you're driving or exercising or doing something that you can't take your eyes off. But if you're able to take some notes as we go, highly recommend doing that. Okay. The number one fastest way to get anything done is to remove it from your list in the first place. You guys are going to laugh. I'm sure that sounds really, really simple. And certainly there are very simple examples of this. For instance, on Saturday, I was preparing for my daughter's 10th birthday party, and I had a grandiose idea of we're going to have this variety of desserts. And I was running all over town, and I went, you know what? I think we have enough desserts. I do not need to drive across town to get those special cookies. We have these cupcakes. It's fine. I'm not going to make that much work for myself. So simplest way to get that done, fastest way to get that done, cross it off the list. Now, I realize that's a very, very oversimplified example, but I would love to share with you a story from one of my clients who I had lunch with a couple of months ago. And she was just sharing with me some of the challenges that she was having with some team structure and, moving people around in different roles. And that experience caused her to stop and really take a look at her business and determine where she needed to be spending her time and her energy and her resources. And when she really dove into it, she has two primary revenue streams in her business. She realized that one of those revenue streams was much more profitable than the other. And so that led her to gather her team together and show them the numbers, and they all decided collectively they were going to focus the vast majority of their time and their money and their energy into growing the more profitable side of their business. Now, you might be wondering, what about the other side of the business? What did she end up doing? She did not shut down that part of the business. She is letting that kind of run, and I guess if you would say kind of coast on its own, but she is no longer actively marketing that side of her business. She is no longer actively doing sales and outreach activities, and she has decided that she will not be adding a staff member to support and grow that side of the business. So that has saved her a whole lot of time because she's not managing all those activities. She's not investing in that sales and those marketing activities. She is focusing on the more profitable side of her business instead. And so with that, be honest with yourself here. What needs to be removed from your to-do list completely? I mentioned revenue streams. Depending on what type of business you're in, maybe there are certain service offerings that just are not as profitable as you would like them to be, or maybe there are some that have just become cumbersome to deliver, or maybe you've just fallen out of love with some of the things that you've been offering. Are those things that we can just kind of gradually remove from our list? Similar note, if you are a product-based business, you're a retailer or a maker, maybe there are some product lines that are much more popular than others. Maybe it's time to reevaluate and let some of those things go. Something that can be a little bit more painful to change might be groups or collaborations that you're a part of. One example of this might be that networking group that you've been a part of for years. And as much as you love the people that are in the group and all the connections that you've made, and certainly value those relationships that have grown from that being part of that group, maybe it's time to take a step back and use that time in another way. Maybe it's time to move on to a different group, or certainly, other commitments that are no longer aligned for you. So something to consider here. Okay, next up, the magic wand that will make manual work disappear. And that is leveraging AI, automation, and systems. So I have a cute little picture of fairy dust here. I thought it was adorable. Some of the magic wands that came up in some stock photos looked a little bit creepy. So here we are, some cute little fairy dust. I like sprinkling fairy dust on things to just poof, make them easier. So that being said, just to share a little bit more about how we might approach this, or a lesson that I have recently learned from a colleague of mine. So there is a friend that I've met through my business mastermind group, and she and I have stayed in touch for a number of years. And she and I had recently connected, and she is also the owner of a virtual assistant services company. She and I have very different clientele. She has a very different business model than mine, but it's always great to reconnect with someone in your space who really gets your industry. And she was sharing with me that she has taken a lot of steps this year to remove herself from the sales process. And she was sharing a little bit more about how she has done this. And she is currently using a tool that allows potential clients to basically fill out like a questionnaire or initial intake form. And that system automatically helps determine whether that potential client is a good fit for them and ready to move forward with a consultation, or maybe they're not quite ready to work with her company, and provides them with some education and some resources in order to prepare them to make that step when the time is right. So this is something that is automatically happening. It's not something that her team is receiving this information and making any decisions and taking time on it. This is happening automatically. And then just to kind of continue through the things that she had shared with me, again, for this example, for removing herself from the sales process, is that assuming this potential client is a good fit based on their responses to their intake, that person is automatically given a link to find a time on the calendar for one of her team to meet with one of her team members to talk more about what their needs are, and how their services are packaged and what the onboarding process looks like, and so on. So her team member is meeting with them, and then she has very specific sales processes created and documented. She has very specific packages that are outlined so that her team is able to help that potential client determine what is best for them. And then she has a whole client onboarding process that is automated in terms of contracts, in terms of setting up accounts and billing. in terms of gathering the information that they need from that client in order to begin working with them. So much of this is automated, and she has removed herself as the bottleneck from the sales process, which is pretty remarkable, especially when you start off with, being a very small business. So with that being said, what is one recurring process in your business that could be simplified by automation? I listed a couple of common ones on here when we think about all the repeatable processes in our businesses, and these are less industry specific examples. Your business probably has some many, many more that we could list here, but sales is certainly one of them. Client journey and onboarding is another. Team onboarding and training. Now, certainly we do want to be spending time with our new team members, but rather than having the same conversations over and over and over, there may be ways to automate some of that or even create a video series to onboard somebody, things like that. Billing is another one. In fact, I just met with a potential client earlier this week who told me that he still creates his invoices as documents and send those out to his clients, and then they might either PayPal or Venmo him. And there's ways that we can automate that for him because everything is pretty much the same on a month-to-month basis, and he can save a ton of time and money that way. So just a couple of examples here. One more that I thought was really interesting recently when we're talking about leveraging automations and AI. I have a past client who I've kept in touch with over the years. And he was sharing with me that he recently started offering some AI consulting on the side and helping small businesses understand and pinpoint where they could leverage AI in some of their automations. And he was sharing with me that he was helping a company with some of their client communications. And so they were streamlining, the frequently asked questions that they get from their clients, and they were able to create an automation that answers those questions for clients very, very quickly in a timely manner and doesn't necessarily require manual work or manual responses from some of their team members. So great customer service provided by them. It's very personalized. It's not like talking to a robot. However, it is something that has dramatically reduced the amount of manual labor involved for some of their team members. Okay, lastly, and moving on here, I'm going to share with you 10 common to-dos that can be reassigned to someone else. So this is about offloading those necessary but busy work types of tasks and projects to others. So these are things that need to be done. It's not something that can be eliminated. These are things that maybe we've been able to automate to a point, but there's still a few things that still need to be touched by a human. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you yourself need to be the one to do them, because we got to keep in mind that all the non-income producing work that we do adds up and ultimately dilutes our results. Wanted to share with you an interesting story about a client of ours who is a 7-figure business owner. He is a rock star sales coach. His clients absolutely love working with him, and he has dialed this down to a science in his business. So he spends the vast majority of his time coaching and serving his clients. That is his genius work, and he loves doing it. And he spends the vast majority of time doing that work. He also spends his time meeting with his own coach because he practices what he preaches and believes that he also needs to be coached and be improving himself and his business so that he's able to best serve his clients, not only now, but into the future. And he spends his time meeting with and leading his team. He has a great team on board for his small business. He only has a couple of people. I believe he's got 3 regular people who work with him as assistants and operations people. And his team is the one doing things like managing his email or coordinating appointments on his calendar, following up with clients who need to reschedule or cancel their sessions, all that chase and run around to get people back on the calendar. His team is doing that. When he does have a sales event, he will have his team coordinate the details of that event. He's been doing some lovely local dinners where he invites some very key contacts, And that is ultimately how he's growing his business, through relationships. Certainly any research and things that need to come up for his business. Client intake is something that he's handed off. He has handed off nearly everything when it comes to the administration and the back end running of his business. So all of that being said, each week consider, how much time do you spend on some of these things? Like email can be a huge time suck. Coordinating meetings. Now, granted, I love our scheduling tools where we can, click to schedule a meeting here, and, you're brought up the meeting options. But what if we send that link to somebody and they never follow through with actually getting a call on the calendar? There's the follow-ups involved with that, right? There's also the posting on social media. That is something that just needs to be done on a consistent basis. And it's really easy to fall behind on that. Or if you're like me, spend way too much time trying to create one post. Certainly writing content. I mentioned client onboarding and team onboarding a couple of times, but it's certainly worth repeating. Taking the time to do some of these things. Does it necessarily have to be you? No, it doesn't. Same things like invoicing, or even paying bills and paying vendors. I know recently I just navigated to a new system for paying my team, because as much as we had streamlined that process, I found that I was logging into all these different various systems in order to pay my team. Some people were invoicing me through QuickBooks. Some people were invoicing me through PayPal. Some people wanted to be paid via Venmo. And it just got to be really, really crazy, where we just implemented a new direct deposit system where we can go in and just enter, right down the line, how much needs to go to each person. And that's not something that I personally have to manage. It's something else that somebody else on the team can do. Certainly outreach to potential clients, collaborators. Here's another one that recently I had talked with a colleague of mine about, even responding to questions that come up. So as the team grows and as your business grows and you have more and more questions that are coming in, who is available to help answer those? I know for a long time it was me. As the team grew, and I love my team and I love our clients, I was kind of that bottleneck of, all the questions that came up on a day-to-day basis. And so I needed to implement more of a senior management team who could answer those questions for our team members very, very quickly, get back to them much sooner than I could, and also free up my time so that I'm able to have more quality conversations with potential clients and team members who can serve them. Inevitably, there are just so many miscellaneous things that pop up on a day-to-day basis that they can really take their toll in terms of having us spend our focused time on our genius work and the things that actually grow our businesses. So all of that being said, as we're kind of wrapping up here, I highly encourage you to write down a couple of things. Number one thing that you're going to eliminate or explore eliminating at this point. One thing that you would like to automate in your business, some of those repeatable processes. And one thing to delegate. What is one thing that you would just like to hand off and get somebody's help with? So once you have that list, and this is the most important step, who can help you with these things? So I highly recommend jotting down the name of a person if a specific person comes to mind who can help you. Or if you're not quite at that point, write down maybe the type of person that you might need. So maybe you're thinking about evaluating all of your service offerings and figuring out which ones are the most popular and which ones are the most profitable. Maybe that's a matter of meeting with an accountant to review those numbers. So write down the name or the type of person who can help you. And as a final step, just to help get the ball rolling and gain some momentum here, send that person a quick message. Hey, so-and-so, I'm doing a quick workshop this morning, and I am thinking about automating our scheduling process for our coaching clients. Just giving you a general example, and then that helps get that conversation with that person who can help you. Or if you have some types of people written in here, certainly recommend reaching out to a business associate or a colleague or somebody in your network, and you can say, hey, I am interested in getting some help with posting on LinkedIn regularly. Do you know someone who might be able to help with something like this? And getting that ball rolling. So, highly recommend taking that next step and connecting with people who can help you with this. I know for me, something like this would sit on my plate, and there's always something more important that comes up. And so it's much better for me if I can quick even pick up my phone and message my assistant and say, hey, next time we meet, let's talk about this. And that just helps get things moving forward. So, just wanted to mention here, if you are getting a lot of ahas and ideas for how you might be able to run your business more efficiently and free up some time, would love to have a conversation with you. I spend about 30 to 45 minutes. I love to dive in with people and learn a little bit more about their company. What does their team look like? What are their goals? And also what's slipping through the cracks, and how can we free up valuable time and energy for them? Sometimes these things are really hard to see for yourself because we're just so close to our businesses. So if that's you, would love the opportunity to have a conversation with you. I have my scheduling link here if you want to scan the QR code. I certainly am open to having you share some messages as well if you have a specific question as well. Okay. And just because I want to make sure that we don't have any lingering questions here. All right. Wonderful. Yes. Thank you so much for joining us. I know we're wrapping up and we have a few people hopping off. Just want to thank you so much again for taking the time to either join us live or watch the recording of this session. Feel free to connect with me and follow on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I'm active on all those three social media platforms so we can keep in touch. Certainly feel free to send me an email if you have any specific questions or ahas that came up today. Also on my website, if you want to visit www.melissaswink.com, I have plenty of resources there for you. 101 Things to Delegate to a VA is a great PDF download. I also have a podcast, Make Space for More. You can check that out in the episodes that will help you grow and scale your business in a way that's authentic and aligned for you. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me today. Really appreciate you taking the time, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye-bye, everyone.